Our next panel is titled Leading Through Change, Staying Grounded When Everything Shifts. And that, I don't know if you could have a sentence that better sums up how it feels to live in this world right now. This conversation is going to explore what it takes to lead in a fast-paced era of change. We're going to focus in on new leadership skills and what's required, the role of wellbeing as a core leadership responsibility, and the importance of keeping culture strong throughout disruption. Guiding the discussion is Raechel Gavin, who's the Chief People Officer at Sonder. Raechel is a strategic people and culture leader, known for driving inclusive cultures, for shaping talent strategy, and for, of course, leading through change. She has deep cross-functional leadership experience and is passionate about building high-performing, people-first teams, and that create lasting impact through their work. Raechel is going to be joined by a panel of leaders bringing diverse perspectives on how to sustain trust, performance and care in today's evolving organisations. Please put your hands together for Raechel.
Thank you so much, Jamila, and a massive welcome to everyone and good afternoon. I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of today, to be moderating such an impactful session alongside some real experts in this topic. And I'm also incredibly proud to be here today with the Sonder team. Congrats to Craig and the team on this first summit. And I know that, we'll look forward to many more to come. Outstanding leadership qualities look very different to perhaps what many of us learned in the past decade. The world of work, it's faster, it's more complex, it's more technology-focused, it's more people-centric. How do we create capacity for this complexity? How do we create capacity for self and others to not be overwhelmed, to not feel anxious about the current and about what the future holds? As a Chief People and Culture Officer, and as a mother, and as a friend and a colleague to many, it's something I think about often. I'm constantly trying to think about, what do we need to do differently? What can we do to create greater clarity and simplicity? Those words really resonated for me, Shelley, in your talk earlier. I think that is a really core competency for leadership going forward. I also know in the last 12 months that change has been a hot topic for many of our customers. My workforce feels fatigued. People are feeling overwhelmed. What tools, what strategies can you give us? And these are customers that are working with students, blue-collared workforces and white-collared workforces. It's across the board. And I think this is where I'm incredibly proud of a product like Sonder, where it actually can support and help. We have the content, we have the programs, and we also have the mental health pathways available to support people, to help them navigate this change and to build the capability. As we delve into our discussion on leading change and staying grounded, I'm excited to introduce our panel. Stella, Petrou, Concha is an entrepreneur, author, CEO and founder of Rio Executive Search and HiveQ Leadership. And most recently, she is a finalist of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. Kevin Figueiredo, thought leader in health and safety, non-executive director in the Australian Network of Disability, and currently Chief People and Safety Officer at the Super Retail Group. Kevin's had a very busy week. Also, Chris McHugh, CEO of Allianz Partners Australia. Chris has led major change and transformation during periods of disruption, rebuild and growth. A unique perspective that he holds to be the CEO in the hot chair, navigating all of those different phases for 4,000 employees, customers and partners. Let's give the panel a warm welcome to the stage. Welcome.
Hi, Raechel.
It's great to see you all. And as I mentioned, not only a great panel of experts, but I know through having met with all of you and spent some time, some incredibly diverse perspectives that we're really keen to get from you. Please remember to send through your questions. We will pause, we will look at those questions at different points. We're very keen to have that audience participation. Now we're going to start with leadership, and I'm going to throw to you, Stella. What is the one leadership skill that has become non-negotiable in the last few years?
Simple question, complex answer. Self-mastery is what I would call a consolidated skill that takes into consideration all of the things that we do as people and culture leaders in training and developing our people to have competencies in difficult environments like, conflict avoidance or conflict intelligence, the ability to navigate feedback without taking judgment. And when we think about these aspects of self, sometimes when we teach them, it doesn't land. And when it doesn't land, it creates further complications for us. Self-mastery is the anchor point by which all of these trainings really sit on. For me, self-mastery is the learning by which every human has the sovereign right to understand, which is you are not your ego. Your ego is a construct of your mind by which you navigate your life. You are experiencing this moment through your lens, through your ego, which has been given to you over time. Mainly between the ages of 0 and 7, you develop your values and beliefs. And so we track through time and we create these models of thinking. And these models of thinking is the governing body by which we... Am I not loud enough?
Okay. Thought I was quite loud. I am Greek. I can project. Where was I?
Ego.
Ego, yeah. And so...
Saying one mic is not enough.
One mic is not enough, okay. Oh, God. Rory, why did you upregulate me? Ego. Coming back to ego, we don't teach our children that they are not their mind. And by the time our children reach 21, their ego is fully developed. And by the time they reach 35 and we go through leadership training, we have to unpeel all of those things that we were given to us between 0 and 7. And the business case for this at the moment is that the World Economic Forum released a report in 2022 saying that self-management is a new skill on the World Economic Forum list. Now in 2025, 6 of the top 10 skills that we need to develop in our people are actually self-mastery skills. Yeah. So what that means is that it's a focus for us. Overlay what's happening with Gallup at the moment, where people are experiencing dysregulated emotions in the workplace like stress and anxiety, or things like frustration and loneliness, and then, they're making it an accountability for the organisation. Coming back to our last panel, what I'm proclaiming is this. It's your responsibility to learn about your ego and to learn how you project into the world. It's not just your employer's responsibility to keep you mentally safe. And so I'm out there at the moment teaching this, and we have in some of the university degrees that I'm lecturing in, we have actually standing lectures just on self-mastery. So when the postgraduate students come out of university, they've got a foundation understanding. So when they hit the market and you give them feedback, that they've got some form of skill not to take that feedback as judgment, for example.
Yeah. Fantastic. And Stella, what I'm hearing again is, it's a lifelong journey, this learning. building leadership, learning about self-mastery, but there's also a need to take personal accountability. I'm curious, what do you think gets in the road of people taking personal accountability for learning?
I think they're just unconsciously aware. I think that this is a base skill that we're not really training at the moment. There are some really progressive organisations that are training it. And actually, Harvard Business Review published a report last year that said that for us to develop our middle managers or our frontline managers, we need to teach them neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive behavioural therapy. Now, my undergraduate is in these faculties, and I agree. But furthermore, rather than giving the power to the middle manager, my thought is, well, imagine if we can give the power to the teenager. Imagine if we can give to the power of understanding how to navigate the construct of thinking, the values that you have created and the behaviours that you then espouse as your accountability, not someone else's. And this is quite radical, and it is bringing so much power to people at the moment, which is positive.
Fabulous. Thanks, Stella. Kevin, I'm going to jump to you for a moment. What leadership capability has been most important for you in navigating disruption, and how do you encourage others to build it? Coming back to this point of needing to build and change quickly.
Yeah, sure. First, I'd like to say I'm glad Chris is struggling to sit on these seats as much as I am. You never know how you're supposed to be here. I said you're squirming there, but still, you're doing well. Maybe some context first, because as Nicole was saying earlier, I think context is important. Mm-hmm. This works for me, so it may not work for you. But I think there's a framework here, and the first thing I'd say, stealing from Atul Gawande's work on the Checklist Manifesto, great book if you haven't read it. I have no royalties here, but there's typically three types of problems. He said there's simple problems, there's complicated problems, and there's complex problems. And we typically walk around. When I read that, I went, most people I interact with go, oh, it's complex, it's complex, it's complex. And if you only think of complexity, then you don't give your space, your mind sense the space to prioritize and to have respite in how you address problems. So in that context, you go, well, the simple problem is baking a cake, a complicated problem is building a building, and a complex problem is raising a child. In other words, there's no way to write a procedure. So in that backdrop, the leadership, there isn't really, if there was one leadership practice that would work, I think most people would go, well, why isn't it working? And I think the word practice is really important for me anyway. And so before I give you the answer to that, I would say understanding one's purpose, my purpose, is the most important thing, because without that, there's no practice that really works, not for me anyway. Understanding your values is really important. In my line of work, I interview a lot of executives, and often I say to people, "Hey, why do you want to come work here?" Well, this week maybe not, but most days. Most people say because the values align. And my follow-up question, I get really excited when people say that, and I go, oh, "This is really cool. What are your values?" I can tell you 90% of the people I talk to cannot articulate their values. So then through my mind, I go, "Well, how do you know they align? Can you articulate them?" So purpose, values, have you written them down? Or can you call them out? Because if you call them out, they serve a compass. And so then your ways of working become important. So my leadership practice within my ways of working, to get to your answer, is simply being clear as a leader, as clear as I can be. And for me, clear is about being compassionate, listening, empathetic, and knowing the difference between empathy and compassion. One keeps you safer than the other. To be accepting, so there's no judgment. We all come in different ways. We're all humans. I'm not perfect. I don't know anybody who is. And so being accepting is important. And the last one is being real, or being authentic, put another way. So for me, that's the leadership practice that works. And how do you instill that? The real answer is the word practice. So it's not about perfection. That doesn't mean I do all those things all the time, every time, but it gives me a roadmap, and it's something we try to instill within our teams, that when things wobble out of control, perhaps go back and just check, are you being compassionate to yourself first? Are you listening? Are you empathetic? Are you accepting? Are you real? So hopefully that might help you. But the trick here is if you want to use Clear, of course, you're welcome to. There's copyright on it, which all that means is if you're going to copy it right. Sorry, the lawyers in the room are probably upset. But in fact, all I'm encouraging you to do, that's one way, but create your way, and hope that inspires you to think about that.
Fabulous. Thanks, Kevin. Really insightful response there. I'm going to jump to wellbeing for a moment. Wellbeing is no longer seen as just a responsibility for people and culture teams. It's an essential leadership skill. I mean, I'd love to see wellbeing as part of capability frameworks. I'd love to see us shift from growth and development plans to wellbeing plans. I know it's happening in some businesses, but I guess we're still on the early cusp of it. But we know that with leaders to be able to sustain running the marathon, I call it, and it is a marathon, and I think dealing with the complexity that we've talked about, we've got to be able to role model healthy practices. We've got to be able to sustain our own wellbeing within the conditions we're operating within. So a question to Chris: should we see health and wellbeing as a fundamental leadership capability, in your opinion? And how do you balance your own wellbeing with supporting customers, partners, and employees? It's a big ecosystem that you're working with.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you, Raechel. Agree. So wellbeing, clearly, I think if we look at self-care from the perspective, everyone will say, yes, absolutely, the way you turn up at work. Your physical wellbeing, your mental wellbeing has a material impact on your ability to connect, your cognitive ability to make sort of good decisions, your ability to demonstrate sort of empathy and understanding. And so I think that's a given. From my perspective, self-care is clearly sort of not enough from a wellbeing perspective. And so when I sort of look at wellbeing, it's really about sort of the ecosystem. So yes, self-care and creating an environment and acceptance that is a critical element to enable people to turn up is critical. But for me, it's far broader than that. And so wellbeing to me is about the environment. So what does that mean? Well, connecting people to a real sense of purpose around sort of what they do, and the reason that they do it. A sense of connection to the team, really critical, because again, particularly in a changing environment, one where we have a lot of remote working, a sense of connectedness, sort of not being sort of alone, or a sense of sort of loneliness is absolutely critical. So how do you connect people in a really sort of authentic and real way? Obviously sort of clarity with respect to sort of people's role, and then also a sense of ownership and accountability. And so, self-care and those elements are really critical, but it's also the environment in which people operate. And so, for me, they're sort of the principles around sort of how we need to sort of run the business. There was sort of a comment sort of in the earlier session which resonates really strongly, and it's a fundamental value and principle that has to sit above all of this is people over performance. Right? You have to put people first, and that has to be authentic and real. So I think from my perspective, they're the elements around which we sort of need to operate. Those principles apply to me as equally as they do with others, and I think if I was to reflect on sort of my career, I haven't always been great at those things in relation to how you self-manage. And I think a lot of that comes down to understanding sort of who you are and what you're good at and what you're not good at. I've always been personally, sort of from a personal self-management, really strong at being able to compartmentalise. So sort of take stressful issues and sort of separate those so they don't impact family or other sort of factors. I've always been very calm and so able to navigate challenging issues without demonstrating sort of erratic behaviour, I would say. But haven't always been that effective in managing my physical or personal well-being. And so what I see is that over time, that changes, and your environment changes, and you change as a person. So my first career was police. Wellbeing was about safety, trauma management, and managing within a sometimes toxic culture. Then I was in a domiciled insurer for 20 years with a relatively sort of stable environment. So that was about how we sort of provide better benefits to people, how we sort of create career paths and sort of work through those things. I now work in a matrix global organisation where we have a vast array of sort of stakeholders, all with impacting sort of people's day-to-day sort of workplace. So wellbeing considerations are completely different in every one of those contexts. But if you remain constant to your principles, which is around people before performance, making sure people are really connected to a sense of purpose around what they do, clarity with respect to their role, connectiveness as a group, and then obviously sort of underpinned by enabling good self-care, because we're not going to sit there and say you can't have a drink on the weekend or you need to go and exercise and sort of do those things, but demonstrating and creating an environment where that is accepted, expected, and supported is absolutely critical. But it will manifest differently in every environment.
Really a lot there, Chris, and I'm going to come back to purpose in a moment. So I'm going to give you a moment to think about that, because I do want to dig into that point a little bit deeper. But I wouldn't mind just throwing to Stella first and then to Kevin with just an example of a self-care approach that you can give the audience, something practical that has worked for you or that you may have observed someone else doing.
Okay, I'll take the self-mastery lens of that. For me, wellbeing, from a self-mastery angle, not from a CEO angle, so me first, then others, is around my nervous system regulation, my autonomic nervous system. So your sympathetic nervous system is your go mode, your parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest mode. And we have an issue, is that we're always in go mode. I was up at 5:30, kids out the door to work, and it's go mode when we get home too. We have very, very little time to allow our ANS to get into that parasympathetic nervous system. And what happens to us when that happens is that we don't sleep. And when we don't sleep, we wake up foggy. And when we wake up foggy, we don't perform. And there's been plenty of research done at INSEAD and Harvard on this, that when an executive or a leader doesn't manage their ANS, their autonomic nervous system, that they are more anxious and stressed. And that, is released like a wildfire in the organisation, creating like a negative culture. It's like a contagion. And so for me, the way I look at it through the lens of self-mastery is your go mode is masculine energy. It's about go, it's about creation, it's about action and achievement. Your parasympathetic nervous response is more feminine. It's about nurture. It's slowing down. It's being, not doing. I wish I didn't have my thing here. So, no, you can't.
Do you want me to hold it for you?
But can you?
Yeah.
So this is collaboration.
It is.
That's interesting. So, doing, action, sympathetic nervous response.
I'm worried about this next time.
Being is not doing. Being is the opposite of action. It's what activates your parasympathetic nervous response. It's very feminine, and it's what we do when we commune and we connect. We're present with each other. We're not in action mode. We're not on our mobile. And so, thank you. And so, when we can balance the masculine and energy aspects of self, it's not about gender, it's the aspect of energy generation and energy management. When we can do that, we create an opportunity for ourselves to be healthy and well. And I want to let you know I'm a total hypocrite. I did burn out at the beginning of the year, and it was proper ANS burnout. And what I learnt from that was... is it can happen without you knowing, and I was not well. And I've learnt about this as a result. I've learnt about this as a result. Feminine energy. Now I get home and I think, am I feminine right now? Oh, I'm still in action mode. Jeez, it's so hard.
Yeah. Lovely. Thanks, Stella. Kevin, self-care.
Yeah, I was starting to think about the feminine aspect and thought of my wife. Not that you're talking about females, but just the feminine aspect. And just a backdrop here. So I sit in my study and I'm having this chat in Teams, and my wife goes past, and she comes back after the Teams call. She goes, "Hey, who are you talking to?" I said, "Oh, this guy at work." And she goes, I said, "Why, was I too loud?" And she said, No, that was just beautiful advice. And I went, "Oh, thank you." and then she mumbled something as she walked through the room. And I said, whoa. What'd you just say? And she said, "Well, it's just too bad you don't take your own advice." So in the spirit of that, what I would say in the practice of that is my self-care. The thing that works best for me is yoga and breath work. I'm at my best when I'm doing that. The weakness in it is that while, I talked about my values and my principles, something I'm working on at the moment is it's created a bit of cognitive dissonance in me, which is it's inconsistent with my well-being practice. So I do, perhaps it's a masculine bit, I can get a lot of stuff done very fast. But the one area of my life that is inconsistent, therefore I'm calling BS on my own principles of application, is why do I not consistently work on my well-being? I'm up, I'm down, I'm up and down, I fluctuate. Right now I'm kind of in between. But the one that really works for me is yoga.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. That's really, and appreciate the honesty in the responses, because I think it is about keeping it real and being authentic. None of us are perfect. We are on these lifelong journeys of learning, and if we could do it easy, we'd all be there now. Chris, I wanted to come back to that point on purpose. And you raised it a couple of times about connecting people to purpose. And we talk about that a lot in the world of people and culture. And I'm curious if you've got any tips about how to do that well.
So look, one of the things is where you work, I think. And I don't say that sort of dismissively. I've always sort of worked in environments, either sort of police or in personal injury or in sort of a business now, which is an assistance business. It's very easy to sort of attach yourself to this primary purpose of how we sort of assist people in need.
Yep.
And so you have to find a connection to the role that you play, and that role and that contribution has to be obviously much bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And more than just a transactional sort of activity. So you have to be sort of connected and find that why. Yeah. And you can find it anywhere. And ultimately, it always, in my mind, sort of connects to the contribution you make to others.
Yeah. At
the end of the day, you'll always find a pathway, either your teams that you work with or your customers or the outcomes. You have to find a pathway to the contribution you make to others. And so for me, you connect people to that. And then you have really sort of solid foundations around what you do. I choose to work in environments where that is pretty easy, but you then have to then continue to remind people around that. So practically, it translates into different outcomes for different stakeholders in your organisation. So our operations teams, it's pretty straightforward, but you've got to keep it really simple. It's about the customer impact. So what impact can they have on the customer in the immediate? And that's around sort of empathy. It's about sort of the outcomes. We actually have, we do have mechanisms, customer awards, things of that nature. But in one of our lines of business, we actually have an award for declining a claim. Strange. No, it's not. Because claims need to be denied if they're not sort of valid. But we reward people for getting a 5 out of 5 because of the manner in which they have done that. So the customer actually leaves our organisation having a 5 out of 5 customer experience, but not getting the outcome that they had hoped to get.
Yeah.
And so that is all linked back to purpose, which is from a customer perspective, what impact do we want to have, and what contribution? It's then broader than that. Our teams from members from our health insurance team here today, we partner with Sonder. They're deeply connected to the contribution they make to international students and workers, but they are intimately invested in the programs, food bank sponsorships, so things outside of our workplace that they invest discretionary time and effort into. Why? Because they're genuinely passionate about it. So we have to give time, space and context around that to give people really that sense of purpose.
That's a fantastic answer. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I'm conscious of time. We're going to move into our third theme now around keeping culture strong. And we know that culture is the glue in the organisation. We also know from Shelley that it is a really hard thing to define, but it's important to define and to get that clarity. A question for you, Kevin. What is one ritual or practice that's really helped your team to stay connected and motivated throughout change?
If I speak fast, can I do two? The first one is just building on purpose. I think the one for us is purpose is our superpower in super retail groups to inspire our customers and our teams to live their passion. That passion is seen every day by our teams. And the ritual that's used is we have this recognition process. We're the only organization that don't use a reward system for the recognition process, so you don't get any points for it. However, we are one of the highest recognizers in the world on this platform with over 1 million now recognitions. What that looks like recognition, but actually manifests as gratitude for two things. One is gratitude that you have a team member that can actually help. But of course, when you give other people recognition, you feel good about yourself. So there's no such thing as true altruism, really. But the one you can perhaps take away is this one. The ritual really forms with a tribe that we've created. The tribe's called the I Am Here tribe within the organization. It has a simple belief that it's okay not to feel okay, and a simple action where it's absolutely okay to ask for help. And because I'm a simple guy, we just had 3 simple steps. Step 1, show you care. Step 2, ask the question. Find out what's going on. Ask the difficult questions. That's probably the hardest step. Step 3, call for help. Each of those steps only have 3 words. Show you care, ask the question, call for help. And now, we're blessed with Sonder because call for help means Sonder. So that's how we connect Sonder through that ritual. And we have, I think, over 6,000, Vashti's in the room, there are 6,000 people who voluntarily form part of the tribe. And of course, we'd like to grow that on their own merits. So that ritual creates trust and clarity from what we heard earlier. And that experience enables, year before last, I think it was Fields we've been into for a year, we had, through our EAP program, about 150 or so people use the EAP program. We, through Sonder last year, this is year one, had over 4,500 people use it in 1 year. Yes, Sonder is important, but we believe that's created because we create the trust environment of it's okay not to feel okay, and that it's absolutely okay to ask for help.
Fabulous, and really resonates that it's okay to not be okay. Thank you. Okay, Chris, over to you. With everything changing, with all of this change going on, how do you keep culture alive?
That's similar and same principles that we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so if we create a well environment, people are more resilient to sort of deal with change clearly. But if you keep people focused with clarity around sort of why we're working through things, and I'm sure I've heard sort of comments through, we provide clarity, we provide transparency, authenticity, so we're sort of speaking with people and giving them as much and sort of complete information as you can possibly can. People will come on a journey with you. Yeah. But I think constancy of purpose is really important again. And so things will occur around us. We need to be well and to be able to deal with that in a rational and sort of considered way. But if we maintain, I hate to say North Star and sort of that sort of focus on why we're here, what we're trying to do, then we sort of engineer our culture around problem solving to work towards that direction, as opposed to identifying the problems and focusing on the problems as a cause for stagnation. We focus people on progress and moving forward. Easier sort of said than done. But I've worked through multiple inwards and outwards sort of transitions of business. Obviously, the business I came into in Allianz Partners was significantly impacted by COVID. It's 80% revenue is cross-border. So post-COVID, we effectively had to rebuild that business. But the business had a huge legacy and a connection to its past. So you have to preserve that and you have to respect that and sort of build on that. But at the same time, actually sort of build clarity with respect to where we're going now, how the environment's changed, how we're going to respond to that. All the same principles that we've spoken about apply regardless. People want to feel as if they have some sense of control over their environment. You have to sort of create that. You have to give them the North Star, and you have to sort of give them the respect, transparency, and sort of engagement to do that in a well environment, right? And so giving them the sort of the license to raise issues, work through things. So I think most people will respond in an environment like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. While I give the panel a quick moment to think about one key takeaway that they'll share with us, to wrap the session, I would like to apologise. We haven't been able to get through all the questions that have come through. So thank you for sending those questions through. There's quite a few, and I wish we had some more time. But these people will be available over lunch, and do feel free to connect with them directly. I might throw to you now, Kevin, a key quick takeaway on this session that you would like to share with the audience.
I was going to say, look at the time because it's gone red, but I'd say, quick takeaway. All right, well, here's one. If you are a people leader in the room, you lead people, the message for you is be kind to your people. And if you are someone who doesn't have people reporting to you, the message for you is be kind to your leaders.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, and I really like the be kind to the leaders. Stella.
My key message is learn about self-mastery yourself and teach your people. It will change your world. It will shift the power and responsibility of being well back to your people. The conversations that you will have will be very different to what you're having now. Productivity will be the outcome. A strong culture will be the outcome. And you'll probably go home probably more satisfied as well when those sorts of things happen in your team.
Lovely. Thanks, Stella. Chris?
For me, it's the connection to the business, to the sort of purpose and the why. So if people are turning up transactionally and sort of working through, you have to find a way to connect to your why to the business. So if you don't have that today, look for it. It's there. And it is a mindset with respect to that. And it can be transformative about sort of how you respond, how you sort of deal with issues, your general sort of cadence and sort of how you sort of operate. So if you don't have it, be proactive, look for it, and sort of look to connect to your why.
Thanks, Chris. And look, let's a big thanks to the panel. It was great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raechel, and thank you to our wonderful panel. There were so many different insights in there that I, again, am scribbling all over these cards. I think Kevin's reflections in particular, that very much under his breath, that there was no such thing as true altruism. That's a fun one for us to take back. But I think more importantly, that thinking around growth and development and purpose and clarity, very much some themes that are coming right through the day, right? We were hearing them early in the morning and we're hearing them now